I want to talk for a few minutes about a topic that is, unfortunately, many Christians are badly misinformed about. Um, and it's the issue of whether or not Christians should use birth control pills. Um, and because a lot of people, not just whether or not Christians should not use them, but whether anybody should use them, a lot of people would be surprised to hear me say, or to learn that there's no such thing as a non-abortifacient birth control pill. There's no such thing. And right away, some people might think that I'm misinformed, but please hear my argument before you dismiss it, okay? Because I'm going to try to explain why, which is what a lot of people fail to do. Um, First of all, let me just point out that historically speaking, um, pretty much all Christian denominations have been on the same page on this. They've opposed this, all right? Martin Luther, John Calvin, they've opposed this, but not only that, but I think today, if people understood what actually happens with these pills, they would oppose them also. The reason they don't all oppose them is because they are misinformed. It's not because they would not oppose them if they didn't, if they knew what actually takes place when they take the pills. And I could also point out what happens to the woman's health, and that's a big concern. But the biggest concern is that it kills a human life. And so, okay, some people are going to say, well, that's they're going to have issues, or they're going to say, well, no, it only prevents conception. It doesn't. It's not abortifacient. And um, I posted something about this a while ago on our page. It's called the Reformed View, um, and the other guy who writes for that is he holds the same position as I do against uh, the pills. And so I posted something there, and somebody commented and posted a video, um, and it's a YouTube video, um, and he said this is what he said: the video I posted explains clearly that what preventative birth control does is prevent not only sperm from getting to an egg, but also eggs from being dropped into and held by the uterus, since they can't stick to the walls. So they can't stick to the walls of the uterus because the pill causes the walls of the uterus to get thinner, and therefore prevent the egg from sticking, from implanting. Okay? So the argument is that it completely prevents conception because the sperm doesn't get to the egg, and the egg doesn't stay in the uterus, and therefore it cannot happen. That's the argument. Now, I'm not trying to pick on this guy. I don't think he's I don't think he's speaking out of malice. I think he's just trying to have a conversation. Uh, I'm, so I would recommend though that you guys go watch the video that he put up, that he linked to, because it explains pretty well how these pills function. And the pill it's a YouTube video. If you go on YouTube, it's entitled simply Birth Control Pills. Okay, Birth Control Pills, and it's put up by a channel called Covenant Health, which is, as far as I can tell, it's not even a pro-life channel. It's a, if I'm not mistaken, it's a group of hospitals. And so yeah, the Birth Control Pills, Covenant Health. If you go watch that and pay attention to what it says, because it explains how these pills work. Okay? And so I responded to this guy and I pointed out something that the video says. Okay? And so here's a direct quotation from the video. Okay? Listen up. The video said, if fertilization of an egg does take place, the lining may be too thin for it to stay in the uterus, so it passes out of the body with the next menstrual period. Did you hear that? Pay attention to that, okay? This is important. if fertilization of an egg does take place. So now fertilization has occurred. All right, it's occurred. So now you have a human being. It has its own DNA. Okay, it's its own. We believe that life begins at conception, right? Well, that's what just happened. Okay, if fertilization of an egg does take place, so now that was conception. The lining may be too thin. The lining of the uterus may be too thin. Okay, it may be too thin for it to stay in the uterus, so it passes out of the body with the next menstrual period, and that's an abortion. That's abortifacient. You see the problem there? That's the problem. That's birth control pills. That's why you should not take them. And so, right there in the video, it says it. All right. And it's not even a pro-life video. All right. So, what are the chances of that happening? Well, I mean, first of all, I think we should just point out, if there's any chance of it happening, we should not take it at all. Because why should we be risking the life of another human being when it's within our power not to do it? There's no reason for it. But according to the video, and this is my response to him, this is what I said to him. Notice that at the end of the video, it says that 1 out of 100 women who use the pill correctly will get pregnant. If the pills prevent ovulation, then how are they getting pregnant? The pills might reduce the chances of eggs being fertilized, but they cannot prevent them with a 100% guarantee. Furthermore, the Bible clearly speaks of children as a blessing from God, so why do Christians have to go to such extreme measures to prevent it? And that's something else I think everybody should think about, I mean, I could point to passages of scripture like Psalm 127, verse 3, starting at verse 3, behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. How blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be ashamed when they speak with their enemies in the gate. So why do we not have that attitude? I think we should ask ourselves that question too. Is it because we've had so much of the world's thinking that is infiltrated into our thinking? So that's another consideration. What is your motivation for using it? And then I further responded to this guy and I said, notice also that according to the video that he linked to, notice also that according to the video you posted, the 99% effectiveness of the pills drops down to 92%. Okay, drops down to 92% with typical use. So that means there is a real chance of the woman getting pregnant, but the fertilized egg not implanting because of the thinning of the uterine lining. So that means not everybody uses the pill correctly, and therefore the actual real number of the actual chances of conception happening of conception being prevented is 92% chance. And if that happens, well, the uterine lining is too thin. It will not implant. The newly conceived child's gonna die. That's an abortion. You see, this is serious, and this is why Christians need to be informed about this. This is again something that all of the reformers were on the same page about. And I think if people understood it today, they would also be against it. I think people had the misconception that in the past people would take these drugs to kill the child inside of them, but now we have birth control pills, and that they're somehow different, but they're not. They're not different. All right. Um, and then further respond. Actually, okay. After I pointed these things out to him, he responded to me and he said, "I see all of what you're saying, and I'm beginning to get concerned. I'll admit, at least for birth control in pill form." So you see, this just proves that if you can talk to this guy, I believe he's a believer, a true believer. And if you can talk to somebody like that, pointing out biblical truth and logical arguments and facts, you can convince people like that. You can show them, and that they're not obstinate. Um, they care about the facts, and you got to give them that. Um, but unfortunately, so many people out there, they just formulate this as an argument for something else, and they're not really trying to convince people by giving them facts and logical arguments and truth.